Hello there, duelists. Synchro summoning is probably my favourite summoning mechanic. It's easy enough to be achievable via multiple different routes, but then on the flip side, it's complex enough to really have to think about what you're doing in order to optimally achieve the result that you're going for. Today, I've got Crystrons on the playmat, and these mineral monsters embody everything that I like about the synchro summoning mechanic. Debuting in Invasion Vengeance, which now I say out loud is a bit of a weirdly named set, semicolon aside. So these came out in 2016, and these watery machines are actually still able to pack a pretty big punch for being 5 years old. So let's dive right in. Okay, so let's do the monsters first as per standard convention. So first up, we've kind of got the core of the deck, and that is 3 Crystron Citree. So I'm going to probably butcher some of these names, but well, it doesn't really matter. So the tuners of the archetype have kind of got an effect where they can quick synchro summon in your opponent's turn, and Citree is kind of the best one in my opinion for that. So it can target a non-tuner monster in your graveyard as a quick effect, special summon that to the field, and then synchro summon a machine type synchro monster using that. And the downside is that the cards are banished instead of going to the graveyard when you use this effect. And then to follow that up, we've got 2 Crystron Rion. So Rion's very similar to Citree, obviously level 3, slightly different in terms of the stuff that is easily accessible, but Rion special summons the targeted monster from the banish zone, and then the materials get shuffled into the deck from that, which is why I'm only running 2 of them, just because he kind of recycles himself. And from there, we've got the non-tuner Crystron monsters. So first up, we've got Sulfefnir. So he's slightly different from the other non-tuner Crystron monsters. So what he can do is you can discard another Crystron card, which is also spell and trap cards, although I'm only playing the trap, to special summon himself from the hand or from the graveyard. So he's a great kind of like extender and a way of kind of continuing your plays once you've kind of got that first play off. And then you destroy a card you control. Most of the time you'll destroy himself, because when he's destroyed, you can special summon a Crystron card from your deck in defense mode. So he's a really good way of, you know, kind of getting your Crystrons into the graveyard so they can use their other effects and basically just getting the ball rolling. He's a great extender, and you know, if you've got this on a starter, it tends to be that, you know, you can push through at least one disruption. From there, we've got 3 Crystron Thystvern. So this guy is our searcher of the deck. So, well, one of our 2 searchers of the deck, should I say. So Thystvern and the other Crystron non-tuner monsters that I'm going to show have all got a similar effect where they can target a card you control, pop that card, special summon a Crystron tuner from your deck, but you can't special summon anything from the extra deck apart from machine type synchro monsters after that point. So you've got to be careful about making plays before you use their kind of summoning effect. And then they've got an additional effect in the graveyard, like the rest of them, and Thystvern is banished to add a Crystron monster. So he's a great card, and that banish effect from the graveyard doesn't lock you into the machine type synchro, so it's a great effect. From there we've got Smiger. Smiger is very similar to Thystvern. I've seen some builds cutting this down to 2, but I just think the searching is so powerful that I really want to keep it at 3. So again, he's got the target destruction special summon effect, and then he's also got a banish from graveyard to add yourself a Crystron spell or trap card. Then we've got 2 Prasiortle. So Turtle can do the same, target, pop, summon, and then he can also banish himself from the graveyard to special summon a Crystron monster from your hand. And then finally, we've got the 1 Crystron Rosenix, which has been used in a variety of other decks, but basically it's just a banish to special summon a level 1 token. So that rounds up the Crystron element of the deck. From there, we've kind of got our, I suppose, normal starters, so normal summon starters. So we've got 3 Scrap Recycler. So obviously this guy's got a huge run in recently, you know, he's just been playing all over the place, and well, soon to be the Scrap Raptor, I think it is, which can summon it, well, which can search it. So yeah, obviously I think it's only going to get more common. But yeah, so send a machine type monster from your deck to your graveyard. And then to go along with that, we're actually playing the 1 Scrap Golem, aka the Fridge. So Golem can special summon back a scrap monster, which means that you can Scrap Recycler into Rosenix, into the Scrap Link monster, summon the Golem back, summon back another Scrap Recycler. You kind of get a few dumps and a couple of monsters on board, which is really good. From there, we've got Genex Undine. So we've got Undine at 3. So this guy, when he's normal summoned, you can send a water monster from your deck to your graveyard to add Genex Controller from your deck to your hand. So again, you can go to Rosenix. Rosenix can then summon Link Spider. Link Spider can then summon the Genex Controller, and then you're off, kind of thing. I think what I don't like about both of these engines is you need to run, you know, the associated brick with them to kind of make them work. But I still think that if you're starting with one of these guys, you're off to a really good start, as long as they don't get, you know, hand trapped, I suppose. Speaking of hand traps, I'm running 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I mean, again, this could be whatever you want, and 3 Effect Veiler. So in my build, I'm not actually running Supply Squad or the Starlight Junction, which is the field spell that shuffles. I just want cards that are a bit more impactful straight away and are not as conditional. So yeah, I've tweaked to make it, I don't know, a bit more efficient in the way that I'm disrupting my opponent. Alright, and then the spells and traps, which I'm just going to do in one section, partly because there's not that many. You may have noticed, but the monster section is quite heavy. So I'm running 2 Magnet Reverse. So this can target one of my machine or rock type monsters that's banished or in the graveyard that cannot be normal summoned or set special in it. So this is a way of getting back some of your Synchro monsters, you know, your Link monsters, stuff like that. It doesn't affect any of the main deck monsters, which is a little bit sad, but it's just such a good like extender and stuff like that that I really feel like it holds a definite place in the deck. And from there we've got the standard 1 Monster Reborn and a couple of other kind of generic cards. So Foolish Beryl, which is normally going to be dumping either the Thystvern or the Sulfefnir. Then 1 Upstart Goblin and 1 Called by the Grave, RIP, the 3 of. From there we've got our traps. So we're running 3 of the Crystron trap card, which is Crystron Impact. So this is searchable from Smiger. You can also discard it for the Sulfefnir effect, as mentioned before. So you can target a banished Crystron monster, special summon it. And if your opponent controls any face-up monsters, change their defense to 0, which is a slightly weird secondary effect, but you know, I'm sure it comes up once every 17 duels. And then when it's in the graveyard, apart from the turn they were sent there, you can banish it to prevent a targeting effect that targets one of your Crystron cards. So it's pretty versatile, and I think in terms of trap cards, it's actually solid, but that's mostly because it's searchable. Okay, and onto the extra deck, where the power ceiling really lives. So we're running 2 Crystron Quandax. So Quandax is a Synchro tuner, and like the Crystron main deck tuners, it can Synchro summon during your opponent's turn. That's during the main or the battle phase, which I'm not sure if I mentioned for the main deck ones, but that's only with monsters on your field, although they do standardly go to the graveyard, unlike, you know, the Crystron main deck tuners. Also, if it's got a destruction effect, so if it's destroyed, you can special summon a non-synchro Crystron monster from your graveyard. And then we've got 1 Crystron Ametrix. So this guy's a bit of a weird one, and I have considered cutting him completely, but I quite like the versatility of having a level 5. He's got the same destruction effect as Quandax, so you can special summon a non-synchro monster from your graveyard. And then when he's synchro summoned, you can change all face-up special summon monsters your opponent controls to defense position, which again isn't really going to come up. He's more of a stepping stone than anything else. From there, running a bunch of generic stuff. So we're running 1 Coral Dragon. You know, again, a synchro tuner, it's got pop effects and stuff like that. 1 Shooting Riser Dragon, so this can dump, reduce its level, and then it can also synchro summon during your opponent's turn. This is probably the one that I go to most with Halqifibrax. We've got 1 Dawn Dragster for the spell and trap negation, 1 Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. I have been toying between just the standard Black Rose Dragon, but I actually really like the bounce effect. I think that's, you know, it's useful to have non-destruction effects, I find. Saying that, I've also got 1 White Aura Whale. So White Aura Whale's a super interesting card. I think it's very underrated. I mean, obviously you've got to have a water tuner in order to summon it, which is a little bit sad. But it's a, you know, destroy your opponent's monsters when it's synchro summoned. It's got piercing, it can attack twice. If it's destroyed, you can banish another water monster to special summon it back as a tuner. So, you know, it's got recursion. It's just a pretty decent card. You know, it's a 2/8 body, so yeah, super solid. I do find that level 8s are probably the one where I find that they're not the easiest to go to, so you have got to be a little bit careful about that. From there, running 1 Crystron Phoenix and 1 Crystron Quandax, as well as the final Satellite Warrior to kind of round up those Synchro monsters. So, Crystron Phoenix, when it's Synchro summoned, you can banish all spell and trap cards your opponent controls and in their graveyard, which is super solid because a load of decks now rely on the kind of graveyard spell and trap effects. And then, if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one other monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So that's kind of a bump up from the Quandax, you know, special summon, because it can now summon Synchro monsters as well. Quandax, it requires 2 tuner monsters, which is super weird because you kind of got XL and double tuning, which I think was what Jack and, you know, Yusei's, you know, 2 different, you know, kind of synchro summoning ways in the anime. And then if it's synchro summoning, target monsters your opponent controls and or in the graveyard up to the number of synchro materials used for this monster, so that's normally going to be 3, and then banish them. So that's again so solid. And then if the synchro summoned monster is destroyed by battle card effect, you can target 1 banish monster and special summon it. So that's kind of a little bit of a twist on the Phoenix. And again, between these two, sometimes you can get both out at the same turn, and it can be an absolute game winner. From there, we've got our Link monster. So we're running 2 Crystron Halqifibrax. So obviously special summon tuner from deck, and also banish to special summon a synchro tuner, which doesn't come up as much in some of the other variants when people are using this card, but in this deck it's definitely one of the highlight. And Crystron Impact can actually special summon the Halqifibrax back, which is crazy. From there, we've got the 1 Scrap Wyvern. So this is, you know, when it's summoned, you special summon a scrap card from your graveyard, pop a card on the field, and then if a scrap card is destroyed, you can special summon a scrap from your deck and then pop a card on the field. Obviously going first, you kind of end up having to pop the Scrap Wyvern, but it's still a super solid card and a great way of, you know, kind of setting up your plays. And then finally, the 1 Link Spider for that kind of Genex Undine play. So concluding, I got Crystrons as a Christmas present in 2016, and coming back to them always surprises me on how they can still play. Obviously, if you only have 1 starter and that's disrupted, it's kind of game over. But if you have Sulfefnir, then you can normally push through, you know, 1 disruption. So it's a 3 for relevance, although I think that maybe some of that will, you know, comes from the fact that, you know, it's not a very commonly played deck, so you're going to be surprising your opponent. And I would note that you really need to watch out for Floodgates. It's pretty much an auto death to Majesty's Fiend or True King of all calamities. For fun factor, as you may be able to tell, I'm a little bit biased, but the complexity of synchro summoning in yours and your opponent's turn really forces you to think about the plays and how you're going to manage the resources at your disposal. So it's a 4 for the fun factor. As for cost, the majority of the cost is actually in the Ash Blossoms and the Halqifibrax, with the total estimate that I've got from TCG Player being about $150. But obviously Ash Blossoms are rocking in about $15 a piece at minimum. So, you know, you could take those totally out and, you know, cut down the Halqifibrax to 1. You'd still have a very solid deck. So, what do you guys think to Crystrons? A shining archetype, or one that should be left to rust? Thanks for watching, and check out the other videos on the channel.